And speaking of introducing you to some special people, we're going to put up some additional videos this week of my interview with my friend Mike Betcher, journalist, former war correspondent, and neighbor. Used to work for CNN, NBC, ABC. Well, he is just an incredible person, and I want him to share with all of us some of the experiences he has had during his amazing career. So I visited with him, interviewed him, and we're going to put that up this week, so stay tuned for it. Well, I am so excited to have, just a woman extraordinaire with me today. We're going to talk a lot about a number of different things. Part of my whole intentionality on this channel is just to really put the spotlight on amazing women who are entrepreneurs, creative beings, great mothers, great role models. And Whitney English, welcome to the Cottage on the Hill.
That is very sweet of you to say. It is completely and totally an honor to be here. I mean, I feel like I'm sitting in the presence of Martha Stewart. So.
Well, hardly.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming.
Yeah.
So I want to just give you guys a little bit of background information. So the first time I met Whitney, you may not even remember this, was I think at the Treasury. In 2012, you were coming out with the first of a series of different products that you have. And one of those, by the way, is her new book, Organized First, Decorate Second. And we're going to put information about that and talk more about that. But at that time, you were putting together a planner for young mothers, for women in general who had a hard time just corralling their days and all of their obligations. And that's when you first came on my radar. So do you remember that?
I don't. I remember the Treasury is a local co-working space, and they've been gracious, and I think had me out to speak a couple times over the past, and they were very supportive in that season of my life. And it was so anyway, I love them and what they've done with the female community locally.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. I don't remember that.
Maybe that was when you first came on my radar screen. It may not necessarily have been reciprocal. So at any rate, let's talk a little bit about what it is you do, who Whitney English is, what your brand is, how you try to serve your community, and just flesh that out for us a little bit.
Okay. I also feel like I need to tell everyone that it is incredibly, I didn't expect it to be so distracting to be here, but you've done such a beautiful job of creating such a beautiful home, and then getting to walk through the garden, which is when you came on my radar, was about 2020, whenever I started gardening like half of America, in 2020, and learning, I had the time to learn about that. So now anytime I meet somebody that has gardening expertise, I steer the conversation that way. And you're very gracious to have me here. So it's going to be hard for me not to talk about garden stuff.
Well, and I think it's always a time to talk about garden things.
Yeah.
So feel free to digress at any point in time. But you have 3 children.
I do.
And tell me a little bit about them and about how you started your business.
I started my first business when I was 22. I was single, and I had been working at a local store called Paper and More. So anyone watching from Oklahoma City will probably know and love that store. It's changed hands a couple of times since I worked there, but just still an amazing locally owned store. I'd worked there for all the way through high school and college, off and on, and I had designed custom invitations for people. So someone would bring in a piece of inspiration, and my boss would call me over, and it was really an early opportunity for me to exercise both my writing skills and my design, my artistic skills. And so I had a few moms that I had been babysitting for that saw what I was doing, and they said, you should really start a wholesale company doing this.
Oh, wonderful.
And my boss said, he took me to market. He took me under his wing. He loaned me some money and showed me the ropes. So here I was 22 years old and had a team of sales reps nationwide that ended up taking my stationery products into I think by the time that company closed, we were in over 3,000 stores nationwide. So it was.
Gosh. And so what kind of products were?
It's kind of an outdated product now, but our primary product was called an imprintable, and it was a blank piece of cardstock that it had a border design on it, and then people would either buy it and run it through their desktop printer at home, or they would take it to the local stationery store and they would print it. But we kind of got hit from both sides from a technology shift. So Shutterfly and Tiny Prints kind of came in from one side and started doing photo cards and things, for Christmas, versus the old traditional, like folded and you tape your photo to the front.
Right.
We sold a lot of those every year. And then from the other side, the whole idea of a printable on Etsy, where somebody could get on Etsy and download a PDF and do it themselves. And so that sort of took the local stationery store sort of off the map. And a lot of those stores still exist. They just have pivoted to more gift stores or maybe custom monogramming or things like that. But it was hard for me to take that existing customer base that we had, which was retailers. So they wanted to buy wholesale from me. And we needed to figure out how to play in the space online as not a wholesale company, as a direct-to-consumer company.
At 22 did you have the courage to start something like this? Where did you get your mojo?
I think that in some ways it was almost a survival instinct. I was single. No one is single at 22 in Oklahoma. At least that's what it felt like at the time. All my friends were married and having kids, and
wow.
and it gave me something to do. I've always been so creative, and I think that desire to express myself has always just been a big driving instinct. I value originality. I value other creatives who figure out how to express themselves, which is hard. I mean, it's a challenge, so I think that there was a little bit of, I love learning new things. I love reading. So it presented a lot of challenges that kept me going. I think a lot of times people will ask me, they'll say, "Oh, you're so ambitious. You're an entrepreneur." And I'm like, those money and fame were never the driving factors. It really has, for me, the motivation to own my own business and be an entrepreneur has really always been about the freedom to own my own time and the opportunity to express myself.
Creative expression.
Yeah. And then share these things I delight in with the world.
Yeah. I think that's so wonderful. So how did your original iteration of what you were doing morph into kind of what you do now, and talk a little bit about what types of product lines and things that you make available to others now. And by the way, I think I also, about the same time, discovered you and some of your products in Mockingbird Manor, where you have a small internal boutique in Mockingbird Manor, one of my favorite antique stores. So yeah, just talk about your offerings right now and how that transitioned from the start to where it is today.
Well, after the stationery company, that company actually filed for bankruptcy. I mean, it was awesome until it wasn't. Yeah. And so learned a lot in that. That was definitely a hard season. But I also can be very reflective and probably critical of myself. And one of the things was like, well, what made this fall? Like, I mean, there were external forces, but what could I have done? What was in my control that I could have changed? And so taking some time to reflect on that, one of the things I realized was just organization. I think as a creative, I'm not naturally organized, but I always say, who doesn't love a perfectly organized anything,
We struggle with that, don't we? Yeah. Yes,
but we all
daily struggle.
Love it. Like when you see something that's really well organized, whether it's someone's recipe collection or their kitchen or an art gallery. We love. I think that's part of the creative thing. I
think it's part of the creative job. But one thing that I read in your book, which really resonated with me, is that but you can't wait to live your life till everything is perfectly organized.
Right.
You can't wait to follow your creative goals and, until everything is perfectly organized. And I fall into that trap sometimes too. Oh, once my office is completely organized and everything's the way I want, then I'll work on the book. Or once my house looks exactly the way I want it to look, then I'll throw a dinner party. But you really, I think, put,
Well, I heard somebody say, so whenever how old was I? I was 28. Country Living magazine actually honored me as one of their like female entrepreneurs of the year, flew me to Chicago. And there was a woman who spoke at that little shindig. It wasn't a little shindig. It was amazing. Her name was Lena West. And she said from the podium, she was like, ladies, you got to go ugly early. And I think that
I like that. Ladies, you got to go ugly early.
The whole room just erupted in laughter. But I also think that you could take that a step further and say, my version of ugly might be somebody else's version of beautiful. And what are we robbing the world of when we say, I'm going to wait and do this until it meets these
my own specifications?
Yeah, and this bar that I keep raising for myself, So at some point in time, I think, and then I also, in writing Organize First, Decorate Second, I wanted to talk about, yes, I love organization, but I also love sharing my life with people. And sometimes that means opening my home up for the dinner party when the gardens aren't done or they're in year one of perennial, sleep, or the kitchen. I mean, the trim in our kitchen is still not painted. The ceiling's not, we still have drywall in the kitchen, know, but how many people have I had over and we've been able to, they don't care. They just love the conversation and the wine and the opportunity to feel seen, heard, known, and loved, which I think is so important.
Very well put. So you have this book, but you had the planner before that.
Yes.
And then again, talk about your product line.
Yes. So the realizing I was disorganized led me to develop the planner. I had this moment in the middle of the night where I realized there wasn't a daily planner on the market of any kind. And I had sent the files to my production manager and told her to print it. And she came back and she was like, this is a phone book. No one is going to carry this in their handbag. And so we reverse engineered it. I mean, we figured out how many pages could hold in the largest spiral binding that the world offered at that point in time. And I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to call this the Day Designer. And it was just such a cool moment to walk into work the next day. And her name was Anna. And I just said, Anna, we're going to call it the Day Designer. It's going to have a focus on daily planners. The first draft had weekly and a bunch of other stuff in it. And we had really had to like pare it down. And it was such, I don't know, it just felt like I was being used like my creativity was being used for
in a good way.
Something that I was supposed to do this, that maybe I was just a steward of this idea and this dream. So then a great company that ended up licensing it. They licensed it to Target. I mean, I got an email that said, have you ever thought about having your products in Target? And I mean, you're just
really? Yeah, really?
Right? Like, how do, yes, and so it was especially after having the first company file for bankruptcy. So then we ended up working with that company doing this amazing Target launch. I got, lots of experience with licensing and that, which I do some licensing now, so I can talk about that in a second. And then let's see, so then they bought the company. I consulted with them for 3 years. My non-compete was up. I started another planner company. Lesson learned on that one, don't ever return to the scene of the crime.
Interesting.
So it was something I knew how to do. So I kind of thought, why not do it? But the timing was off, so I mean, you win some, you lose some in entrepreneurship world. And we still have inventory on that. We run sales every so often. So if anybody's watching, they might have or you can go to Mockingbird and buy some of that.
But you
there
remained
too.
with that concept of one day at a time.
Yes.
Yeah, we
yes.
live our lives one day at a time.
Yes.
Happily ever after.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
And write things down. I mean, I see your planner over there. I wholeheartedly subscribe to the, I need a pen and a piece of paper. I can't keep it all on my phone.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm not good about that. And I would love for you to share any tips, because I'm somebody who loves paper products and I love organizers and I love notebooks and things. But I'm not always disciplined enough to actually use them, to actually write them down. And I make excuses like, well, it's never where I need it to be at the right place, or I'm out someplace and I don't have my planner with me, or, you know, all sorts of kind of, my big excuse right now is I got one of these skylight calendars, which now refuses to talk to my Wi-Fi. And so now that's an issue. So what tips do you have for all of us on being dedicated and disciplined enough? Do you check your daily planner every morning, or do you review it and record at night? What is your habit strategy for actually using your planner? And here is my very casual outfit du jour from top to bottom. I've got some beautiful, beautiful earrings. These came from Santa Fe and they belong to my mother-in-law, and I got them after she passed. And the only downside of them is they're a little bit heavy, but they are beautiful nevertheless, and they kind of coordinate with my other jewelry that I've got on today. This ring belonged to my second mother. This belonged to my second mother. I made this one, and this one I bought at a wonderful shop in Salida. So there's my jewelry for today, and a number of you commented that I had a manicure, and I do. I have a new manicure and a pedicure, and this is some of that Essie gel-like, but it's not gel that I love so much. And yes, we will put links to this color, which I think is very autumnal, in the description box. My top is, I don't know what it is. It is just something that I got at the thrift store. It's very comfortable and it's soft as butter. These are breeches that I cut off. There were some longer jeans. I cut them off, and I don't know, they remind me of my first mom in some way, because I have pictures of her when she was in, what are these called? There's my question of the day. What were these called? They're not culottes. They're not Bermuda shorts. I think there's another name for them, but there we go. And my belt I got at a thrift store in Zion Park, and I love it. And my shoes I got off of Amazon, and these are very, very comfortable. And they are kind of that ugly chic right now. So I think that pretty much covers, does that pretty much cover the deck? Okay, very good. There you go, my outfit du jour. Now, if you enjoyed our thrifting jaunt yesterday, then make sure to check out our playlist of all of our thrifting videos, because over the years, we've really found some great stuff, and we don't always go to the same Goodwill. We do visit other areas. So I think it might be fun for you to, I don't know, just check out that playlist. Another reminder that I want to tell you about, or something that's not a reminder, it's something that's going to be coming soon. And that is a segment I want to start calling Thank You Notes, where I thank you for the stuff that you have sent me. And boy, oh my gosh, let me just say, Susan, I am going to show the book that you made. It absolutely blew me away. Me too. Absolutely blew me away. It blew Taylor and Jamie away when I just showed it to them via, when I showed it to them long distance. But a number of you have been sending things, and I'm going to try to be better, because a lot of it comes in and it's not at a time we're shooting. But I just want to make sure that you know how much I appreciate you, that you are acknowledged, and that it is just so kind of you. So along those lines, we're going to start doing a thank you note section. I'm not sure when we're going to do it, but we will do it. I then also want to show you something today that is definitely my plant of the month. It is a Southern Living Plant Collection plant, and that is just all of their abelias. The Miss Lemon abelia right now, I mean, the fact that it blooms this time of year when the monarchs are coming through, well, they're just absolutely spectacular. And so I want to give them a shout out. and thank them for their service. This is the beautiful Miss Lemon Abelia, but Stuart, let's come this way. What is your habit strategy for actually using your planner?
I just remind myself to keep going back to it. It's not, I don't have a consistent strategy. It's just if I use a process, I call it a brain dump. I will find the nearest notepad or piece of paper and I just start writing stuff down. I actually will confess that I have 2 daily planners because half the time I can't find one of them. I mean,
yeah.
So this one says like September 8th on it, and it'll get lost in a pile of books, or I'll leave it in the bathroom and I'm in the kitchen and I need to write something down there. And so then I find another planner on the kitchen shelf. So I try to keep it to 2 daily planners, but there's not a sequential.
Well, I think you know, somebody said, well, oh, Linda, you're so organized. And I say, oh, I'm only organized because I'm so disorganized. The only reason that I'm organized is because I am my default,
yes,
my settings, original settings is disorganized.
Yeah.
And I think it's something, some people I do think are naturally organized. That's just how they're wired. And it's interesting that a lot of us that keep these kind of things are people who aren't predisposed in that direction. And we have to constantly remind ourselves, write it down, get organized. Stuart and I were just messing with some appointments that we missed before you got here.
Yeah, I just have to remind myself to, I do use technology. And so I sat down with my phone a couple months ago, and every time Apple does an update, you know, I'm like, okay, so now there's a widget where you can put your calendar and you can kind of see it on your front page on your phone. And so I do challenge myself on the technology front to like figure out what they've updated and how to adopt that. And then I journal. I do a lot of journaling, note taking, and then lots of grace as well. We'll get there. You know, I make lists and then I remake lists and then I make a list again.
And then you forgot where you put that list. And then, yeah. So talk a little bit about the licensing process and what kind of products you have at Mockingbird Manor and your wallpaper and things, because she's amazing.
So Mockingbird Manor, we've mentioned that a couple times. I am so biased. I love that Liz that owns Mockingbird Manor. Do you know her? She's just amazing. She's got good energy and so she's been doing this for 20 years. And my mom actually has a booth in Mockingbird as well. And before the pandemic started, we had moved a bunch, like 5 times in 5 years. And I just had all this stuff. And so I called my mom and I was like, do you think Liz would give me a booth space? And then Liz kind of, you know, coached me along, and she was, you know, so she's like, if you'll work your space, this will turn into income for you. And so I do. I mean, and I love home stuff and decor and things like that. So there's always a little bit of a.
So what type of items do you have there?
Well, I dropped a load of goodies off yesterday, and I think my favorite thing I dropped off yesterday is an antique tole candelabra. I should send you a picture that you could. But so tole is a metalware, and then it was actually sort of a craft that was popular, I think, in the 50s and 60s. I think we should bring it back. In the
60s and 70s, I can remember my mom doing it.
Okay, I would like to know. It's sort of a lost art at this point in time, but they would take metal and somehow turn these things into flowers and chandeliers. And so there are beautiful examples of it out there. And I love it because it's this whole idea of bringing the outdoors in.
So where do you source most of your products?
Well, it's a secret.
Oh, it's a secret. But I mean, you don't like that, but they're unique products.
Yes.
They're not just something.
Yes.
In other words, you don't go to Target and buy a bunch of things and style it your way and bring it to Mockingbird.
Right.
These are things that you've gone from different places to locate.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, thrifting and Facebook Marketplace and eBay and estate sales and garage sales and things like that.
So those are the kind of places that you source your stuff.
I mean, but really, like, I will be in Home Goods and I'll see like a blue and white ginger jar, and I also have a checklist in my head of things that I'm looking for, so like texture, neutrals, I like muted colors. Your style is you're preaching to the choir with your style, but the muted tones, the textured bamboo that,
You like lots of blue and white, I know.
Yes, I like the blue and white. Anything that, just because, well, here I talk about this in the book, but I call it the old, new, borrowed blue and green as sort of a philosophy. But the idea of when you're designing a home, start with something old. Then you're going to have to add new to it just because you're going to need the function that glassware provides, or, so you do have to fill in with Target or Home Goods or whatever at that point in time. The borrowed is this idea of like layers from other countries. If you were bringing in maybe a textile that you sourced while you were in France, or your friend gave you a needlepoint, and the things that have stories are the borrowed. And then the blue and green is just the color cobalt, historically, I mean, since ancient days, has been highly revered as, it brings something. It's like it brings the sky into a room, and then the green, of course, is the whole idea of bringing the outdoors in. So that's kind of that's my checklist in my head when I'm thrifting. I'm looking for things that will sort of add to that.
Well, and which will communicate what you might consider your signature style, because I'm all about signature style and your signature touches and your signature logo, and really all of us, whether we are entrepreneurs or not, we all are our own personal brands, and how we want to communicate our personal brands along with our signature style to others, again, whether it's for commercial purposes or just because we want it to be a reflection of our own personalities and our own spirits and
our values
all of those kinds of things. And I think sometimes you look at yourself as a brand, it makes you honor yourself in a way that maybe you wouldn't if you looked at it in a way that, oh, that's kind of just a superficial thing. No, this is a brand, and I want to communicate the values of my brand. So if you really had to distill your style into, well, any number of things, it can be 3, it could be 12, it could be whatever. What words would you use to describe your style? Or what do you consider to be your signature touches in terms of your personal style, how you dress or whatever, and then also your home decor style, and just even you can extrapolate from there. But
that's a great question.
Okay, we haven't talked books in a while, so let's do that today. It has really improved my spirits to find some things that just hit the right note at the right time. Starting with this book on Bird Haven Farm. Now, one of the reasons I'm so enthusiastic about this is because it is by someone that I have paired or companioned with on my channel before, Janet Mavec, with some of her jewelry line. She has a fabulous nature-inspired jewelry line. But the other reason that I'm excited to talk about her is that she's got a new book out, Bird Haven Farm, and she and I are going to do a book signing together on November 7th, I believe, in Falls Village, Connecticut. So we're going back east, and the two of us are going to be doing a book signing at 100 Main, Bunny Williams' shop in Falls Village. I think it's going to be a real kick, and if any of you are in the area, I do hope you come by and meet her, say hello to me, and we could just have a really good time. The other book that I am just so excited about, which relates a little bit to the chat that we had yesterday about the divisiveness and just the political divide in our country right now. And I think, the obvious premise is because we can't walk in each other's shoes, or we're not trying to walk in each other's shoes because it's hard to know how other people think. Well, one of the ways that I've been distracting myself very pleasantly lately, I think I've shared this with you, is by watching biographies. And I watched a brilliant one. These are all on Prime, and this one was about Virginia Woolf, the haunted genius. It was so good. And these biographies, well, they forced me to do then a deep dive into some of these people's works. So I've done it with Elsie de Wolfe. I am doing it right now with Ernest Hemingway, and I'm also doing it right now with Virginia Woolf. And I have read a number of her books. You have probably read A Room of Her Own. You may have read Mrs. Dalloway, but I had not read To the Lighthouse, probably her most important work. And I am listening to it as on Audible as an audio book read by Nicole Kidman, who you may recall played the part of Virginia Woolf in that wonderful movie, The Hours. So first of all, Nicole just does an incredible job, but I don't think I have ever listened to a book that was so beautifully written. And why it's germane to the moment is because just as soon as you think you have one point of view, the protagonist, then she kind of switches protagonists. And it's just a stream of consciousness of these different characters' thoughts. And you realize as you look into the minds of these other people, how there's no one right way of thinking, how there's multiple right ways, how there's no good guys and bad guys, how there's just different ways of looking at the world, which is what we all need to do right now, is just realize that different people have different perspectives. And you can understand their perspectives because she jumps in from one person's head into another person's head. And well, you can tell I'm excited about it. So I am listening to it on Audible, but I told my son Johnny, and we might segue here to some of Johnny's stuff, Stuart. I told him that it is just so beautifully written, and her use and her wordplay is just, her language is so beautiful that now next time I go to an old bookstore, that is what I'm going to be looking for, an old copy of To the Lighthouse, and see what passages somebody else might have highlighted, because I keep in my head thinking, oh, I need to stop and highlight that. Well, I can't highlight it because I'm listening to it. But if you're getting ready to take a trip or take a long walk, if you want something that helps you see someone else's perspective who's got a different point of view, then I think that's a skill we can all increase our muscle in. And well, it just put me in a better mood to read it, to listen to it, and to rediscover it. So thank you, Virginia Woolf. What words would you use to describe your style, or what do you consider to be your signature touches in terms of your personal style, how you dress or whatever, and then also your home decor style?
That's a great question. I think it's a really good question even for viewers to think about. Like, take a piece of paper and scribble down, like, these are the words that mean something to me, because those are going to be the values that then you're going to go try to visually represent in your style. So the first word that kind of came to mind when you were asking the question is timelessness. I mean, I really like things that stand, that, you know, it doesn't look new. It doesn't look old. Like, you're looking at it and you're kind of going, I can't really tell.
So classic.
Right. Like classic. I would also say resourceful, because anything that challenges us as creatives to be resourceful is going to have a story attached to it. You're going to say, oh, I found this at the Goodwill, or I picked that up off the side of the road and gave it a coat of paint. Yeah. And so I would say resourceful, timeless, classic, resourceful. Those are three good ones.
Okay. And and those can relate to how you dress. They can relate to how you decorate your home. Are there any very specific things? Like, I love topiary, and I love topiary, like big earrings, and I like so do you have special things like that you're particularly fond of and gravitate to?
I love chinoiserie, anything that that might be anything from the Asian area of the world. That might be a Turkish rug or a Persian, I love history, anything really old. I'm anti-plastic. I mean, plastic ruins a room faster than you can say, lickety split. I mean, if you're trying to style a room, just take a quick iPhone photo of it and then just pull out all the plastic. Just like take the plastic out.
What a difference.
Right. But I think that also I'm on a journey to discover my style. So one thing that has been selling at Mockingbird lately, I've done this textiles thing for a few years.
How do they find your textiles if you go to?
The textiles are on spoonflower.com. You can also go to whitneyenglish.com.
Whitneyenglish.com.
We try to link to everything from there. But Spoonflower is a company based out of Raleigh that allows artists to upload their designs. And then they actually have sort of created this community because an interior designer in South Dakota will find me. They like my style, so they contact me. So I end up collaborating with them on these designs and stuff. But I think that I don't know that I have. There are a lot of people whose style I really admire. Ina Garten. There's an Instagrammer named Mara Indras. M-O. I mean,
yeah.
I have sat on her Instagram feed and just dissected everything.
Her stuff is just, and I would say then that you would consider yourself a maximalist versus
I do love stuff.
A minimalist.
I do love stuff. And stuff loves me. Just like we're like me and stuff are magnets. So, but I think personal expression is I'm also finding ways to. I'm really exploring my artistic side. I've been painting a lot. I've always painted on paper and in sketchbooks, and I'm painting on canvases. I'm taking the stuff up to Mockingbird and it's selling.
Wonderful.
So I haven't really talked about that a lot on my website or my blog or on Instagram or anything like that, because it doesn't feel like I have a very refined artistic style. I mean, I feel like you have to like paint a lot to figure out what your style is. You have to write a lot to figure out what your voice is. You have to decorate a lot to kind of figure out what you're. So I mean, I think it's a journey and
not an end game.
Yeah, but I enjoy that journey for sure.
Well, thank you for, as part of your journey, spending some time with us.
Oh my gosh.
If people want to find out more about you, if they want to, we'll definitely put a link to your book. But if they want to find out more about you, about your textiles, about your brand, they can go to whitneyenglish.com.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you're local, you can actually go buy the book at Mockingbird. I have copies of the book up there for sale. So
yes, well, we all love to go to Mockingbird, and that reminds me, I haven't been there in a while.
Right.
I need to go visit.
Yes.
Bring them a copy of my book too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I need to do that. I miss visiting with Liz and all the gals up there.
Yeah, she should have you up there for a book signing.
Well, I need to check into that. When they were just down the street from me, it was a lot easier. Now they're a little bit further away, and it definitely speaks to whether or not something is convenient, how frequently you will go to those places. But it definitely is less convenient for some, but more convenient for others.
It's inspiring though. I mean, if you're looking for like ideas and things, it's just a great little stop on your daily journey. Yeah.
Well, you're a great little creator.
Thank you. So are you.
Thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Please go check out everything Whitney English and give us feedback. Let us know what you find to be really, really special about her style. And I've practically been down on my hands and knees looking to see if any of the seed has germinated yet. I want it to be up and going for the garden tour. But along the way to seeing how the new bed is developing, I also want to thank Kaleidoscope Abelia for its service. It is absolutely beautiful, a little bit more autumnal. And well, it's just a wonderful thing. And we will put links in the description box below and on the screen, if possible. Here's something I did this morning, a little gardening. I decided that out was going to come all of the cosmos, and I like the way it looks so much better, just as I like the way it looks without that sunshine ligustrum in there. So you can tell it's windy. It was very hot and windy this morning, the worst kind of gardening weather, but I think it feels a little bit cooler, so maybe it's blowing in some cool air. I'm not sure. Now, I'm a little bit, now I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit distressed about the sunshine ligustrum. I know it's going to live. I feel confident it's going to live, but it may not look its best for the garden tour. But here is what we have done, and I showed you this before, but I like to show you my uglies as well as my beauties. So we've put these in place. We put these Nellie Stevens in place. You guys noticed, as did I, that the one on the other side was planted a little bit too closely to the fence, and we're going to adjust that. But here is kind of what is distressing me. So I want to be transparent about that. About the transplant of this. This one is doing just great, this Sunshine Ligustrum. It is doing just fine. And I think this one will too, this Mammoth one will too. It's been watered enough, but it's pretty crispy right now because we planted it on a day that it was just fine, but then it got hot. Now, what I am doing is to make sure that it's alive, and I'm not, again, I'm only distressed about this foliage drying and becoming crispy because of appearance's sake. Do I think the plant is still very viable? Yes, and I can tell that just by scratching the trunk right there. And see the green? Can you see that green, Stuart? Right there. You may have to come. Okay, now you can see that green right there. So this is fine. It's going to be a little bit ugly, but that's okay. That's the break. Sometimes, as I've said many, many times, you have to have uglies before you can have beauty. That'll be a nice mulch. The plants come this week, Lord willing. The plants come this week to finish filling this all out, and I'm going to be thrilled when it's all done. I'm always a little bit insecure until things are in place before a big event. By the way, that is on October 4th at 10 o'clock. It's going to be in 2 shifts. It is the Friends of OU Breast Institute. We will put a link below. If you can't find the link, just ask me for it, or just show up the day of, because you'll be able to buy tickets here. And it is also the same day as the Heritage Hills Home Tour, so lots and lots to see and do. This one is also suffering some. And I checked the viability on this one, and it is still alive. It's just a little bit traumatized. See right there where I scratched it back. So these are fine. They're just traumatized. I think next spring they'll be more than okay. I'll do what I can to kind of clean them up a little bit. And certainly having fresh and blooming and new plants in here will help. Especially, I'm hoping that some of those azaleas come in and they'll be in bloom. So we'll get this taken care of. It'll be done. That will be relocated, so it is really not hugging that fence too much. We'll have probably some new gravel in here, a number of different things to do, but all in good time. Everything in good time. So enjoy your Sunday today. Kind of try to get a little bit zen. I am definitely trying to do that. We had fun thrifting yesterday. If you haven't watched it, make sure that you do. Make sure that if you like this kind of video that you give us a thumbs up, that you subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and most importantly, that you share with others as we try to share good stuff and understand how other people's point of view works. So there you go. Have a great Sunday.